Thank you very much. My name is Matthias Borg. I'm working from Scania. I'm currently working in Bangalore. Very grateful to be here. Thank you to Mr. Sanjay and ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to talk about Scania and some global trends. Since the start of Scania in about 100 years ago, the engine has been a very strong tradition for engine development. And the engine has been kind of a jewel in the Scania product segment. It's strong and it's durable and it's very fuel efficient engine. And around this engine, we built the products around it, like transportation, things for bus and trucks, mostly, for transportation goods and people. And by natural reasons, we only offer a number of services related to the engine itself. That means providing superior solutions for OEM manufacturers of applications like gensets and boats, construction equipment. But Scania is not only limited to hardware products. We also provide premium services that is related to the ownership of the vehicles. And all this is to provide a premium product with the lowest possible cost for total operation for the customer. We will provide a low fuel consumption with a high uptime and a low maintenance cost. So I know that this with the digitalization and fleet management is a thing that is coming up as a more interesting feature. And with the Scania fleet management system, we open up the possibility for you as customers to be able to monitor your fleet and your load in a more efficient way. So we divided this package in kind of 3 steps, in a monitoring, analysis, and a control package. And by the monitoring part, it's possible to geographically position the vehicle, where it is, what is the fuel level, what is the fuel consumption, and make a vehicle tracking of it. And by the analyze part, you can provide history reports, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or whatever, to get information directly from the vehicle that is not accessible by any other means. And that will mean that you get statistics for each individual vehicle or by the total fleet on fuel consumption, harsh brakings, idling, harsh accelerations, etc. And the control package is maybe the strongest feature of this, since as a haulier you can get the possibility to put in some alarm and notifications for your truck. That is, if the truck is moving outside a certain zone or moving inside a zone where it shouldn't be, or you can, as a haulier, you can get a highlight or notification if someone is going too quick, doing too harsh braking, or if someone is stealing fuel from the truck. And the good idea is that you can set up your own highlight list, so even your mother or the authorities or anybody could get this email information when this event is happening. The technology for doing this is is a unit in the truck that takes data and information directly from the truck and provides that up via the network to a server at Scania. A network connection is not nearly necessary to have on this one, since the data is stored and buffered into the truck and uploaded when the connection is within reach again. So the Scania contribution to India, we're relying on the innovation, sustainability, and quality and safety. And that is, since Scania has been a leading player for a long time within engine technology and safety development. And we have a strong tradition of making durable vehicles and low polluting technologies. The high quality products, it's long lasting and it's a premium touch and it's a high output. So the current situation with the carbon dioxide emissions, Scania, as many other manufacturers, look also at alternative fuels. And we have a strong tradition in working in this, and we will continue working on that continuously, also here in India. There's bioethanol and biodiesel, and there's biogas that we try to implement in both buses and trucks where it is possible, where the fuel is available. So we're looking forward to a long-term commitment. Scania is in India to stay here, and we offer our customers a long relation, a long-term commitment, support and development together with you. And I would be, and Scania would be delighted to see you in 2015 and in the future to be a customer with us, making good business with the strongest truck in India, the Scania R580, utilizing the fleet management system. Thank you very much.
So those were insights from Scania, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're going to be moving on to our next session. And this post-lunch session is on global transport technologies, a boon for road safety. And may I request our speakers to kindly join us on the day, starting with Shri Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. Please welcome him with a round of applause. Warm welcome, sir. May I now request Mr. J.P. Martin from Goldhofer, Germany to kindly join us on stage. Welcome him with a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the applauses, everyone. I'd like to now request Shri Alok Bhaumik from TBGE Consortium. Our moderator, Mr. Jignesh Patel, is already joining us on the dais. We welcome you, Mr. Patel. May I request Shri Alok Bhaumik, there he is, from TBGE Consortium, joining us on the dais now. We have Shri A.S. Ramarao, Senior Vice President, Volvo India, joining us on the dais, and there he is. Please welcome him with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Shri G. Kannan, Head LMC Larsen and Toubro Limited, Powai. Warm welcome to Shri G. Kannan. Mr. Felix D'Souza from SE Infra Projects. Warm welcome to Mr. D'Souza, and thank you for the applauses, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sanjay Singh Gehlot, the Deputy DG of NIC. And may I also invite Mr. H.S. Acharya from HTOA. Mr. Sanjay Singh Gehlot is going to be joining us shortly, ladies and gentlemen. He's stuck in a jam and he's going to be landing as soon as he's here. He's going to be in the hotel in front of you on the dais. But before we do that, very quickly, we have Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay on the dais. He is Joint Secretary at Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, and he's an IS officer from Madhya Pradesh cadre batch of 1988. And may I request at this point Mr. Shobag Mal Kataria, an HTOA team member, to step forward and present him with flowers. Mr. Shobag Mal Kataria is joining us on stage and is going to be presenting flowers to Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay. Can we please hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for Shri Bandyopadhyay. Warm welcome to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri V.L. Patankar had to leave, but I think if he still comes in, he's going to join us on the dais. I'm going to now request Mr. Jignesh Patel to present flowers to Mr. J.P. Martin from Germany. May I request Mr. Xerxes Parabia, Mr. Ram Ratan Agarwal, Mr. Bharat Gandhi, and Mr. Sharad Bhatt to kindly be ready with their floral presentations to our esteemed guests. Warm welcome to Mr. Martin. May I request next Mr. Xerxes Parabia to present one to Shri Alok Bhaumik from TBGE Consortium. Thank you for the applauses and warm welcome to Shri Bhaumik. We'd like to now welcome Shri A.S. Ramarao, who's the Senior Vice President of Volvo, and it is in January 2014 that he took up the responsibility on Volvo truck sales, marketing and aftermarket, and he's been associated with VE Commercial Vehicles since 2002 and holds the responsibility of setting up a strong base for marketing, sales and after-sales functions at Volvo Trucks. We would request Mr. Ram Ratan Agarwal to kindly welcome Shri A.S. Ramarao with flowers. Or otherwise, any HTOA team member is requested to kindly step forward and welcome Shri A.S. Ramarao. Next, Mr. Sharad Bhatt, if you're ready. Mr. Sharad Bhatt is going to, I'm going to request Mr. Bhatt to do a few more honors. So I request you to stay on stage and present flowers to our other esteemed dignitaries as well. To Shri G. Kannan, Head, Corporate Logistics and SCM Larsen and Toubro Limited. So why don't you present another one to Mr. Felix D'Souza.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
SE Infra Projects. Thank you so much. Mr. Gandhi is going to be presenting it to Shri Felix D'Souza, SE Infra Projects. Please accept a small mark of honor, sir.
गिरीश मुंचंदानी का जो फैसिलिटेशन है संजय बंदोपाध्याय जी से अभी करा दीजिए क्योंकि some accident हो गया इसलिए he has to rush in his family problem. Editor of heavy orders.
Okay. I would now request an HTOA team member to please step up to present a floral bouquet to Shri N.K. Sinha, to Shri. At this point, actually, we have a little something special for one of our esteemed guests. May I request Mr. Girish Manchandani to kindly step up on stage and accept a small token, a floral, token of appreciation and gratitude. And I request Mr. Patel to present it. And we also need a photo opportunity on that. So in the center somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. Girish Manchandani, the editor of Heavy Haulers. Thank you very much, Mr. Manchandani. So, as I said, Mr. Sanjay Gehlot is going to be joining us very soon. We have to also welcome Mr. S.H. Acharya and Mr. Jignesh Patel with flowers, and any HTOA team member is requested to step up and welcome any one of the HTOA members. Or if I may present the flowers. Where is Mr. Acharya? And finally, to our moderator. Finally, we present flowers to our moderator, Mr. Jignesh Patel.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, so as I was saying, this is the session about global transport technologies, a boon for road safety. And this is the session that is going to explore the entire gamut of challenges and possible solutions pertaining to the safety of roads and bridges in India. Also, we will discuss the role of hydraulic trailers in enhancing the safety of roads and bridges and the role of government in enhancing the safety of roads and bridges. So, on that note, I'm going to request Shri Sanjay Bandyopadhyay to kindly deliver the theme address so that the context is set and then we can start deliberations. Please welcome him to the podium with another round of applause.
My fellow speakers on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, as you have been hearing since morning, the main objective of this seminar is to facilitate movement of over-dimensional and oversized, overweight cargoes on the Indian roads. And you have heard earlier in the panel discussion what has been done and what has to be done. The present session is on the global transport technologies, whether it's which is a boon for road safety and what should be the future course of action. So during this session, we will hear a lot of discussion on this. There has been presentation by the major manufacturers of the world earlier, and you are also aware of the technologies we are coming in. But I just want to share with you that we are trying to improve the axle carrying capacity. Based on the axle carrying capacity, the total gross weight of the load to be carried. In fact, we are at times concerned about how to increase the efficiency of the carriage of goods on the roads. The roads are improving with investment coming in, and there are plans to develop roads in a better way. Then there are constraints of the bridges, the load carrying capacity of the bridges, and then the mechanical engineering part. So we have been training first of all, we have been trying to bring out a legislation which will allow hydraulic trillers. As everybody knows, it is pending in the Ministry of Law for Hindi translation, and by this weekend they will be giving the Hindi translation. We will send it for notification. But in addition to that, once we are through the identification of the stretches which are critical for movement of such goods, and then a survey of the weakest link, that is the old bridges on such stretches, then we will be seeing in what way our roads can carry more axle load and sync it to the world standards. As everybody knows that this was constrained because of the old bridges, and the 2 incidents have already been reported, and it was complicated, as I have been quoting before, that when this thing happened in Sagar, when the generator set fell down, then a case was registered by the local police station, and finally a challan was put up in the court. And the court started asking that how was the certificate of clearance on which the trailer was registered. Then they were told that that had a certificate from either one of the test agencies or from VJTI, which has seen that this had a global certificate from one of the European test labs. But without being convinced, the PWD secretary of the state was asked to submit a report. Some of the civil engineers there were reaching a conclusion that this was beyond the axial carrying capacity. The pressure distribution was not uniform, and therefore the bridge collapsed. So finally it came to me in the year 2012, and I went through the calculations on the distribution chart, and I called the secretary of Madhya Pradesh, who was a chief engineer at that time, and also holding the charge of this secretary PWD. I told him and showed him that this is the way the hydraulic pressure distributes the load. So then he could help us in saying that there was no problem in certification of such a hydraulic trailer. Otherwise, I want to tell you that in what way the cases are complicated, and if some of the people face this kind of harassment, then the system stops taking the decision. But now we have come out with this, this regulation will be with you very soon, which will increase the size of the hydraulic trailers and the joining of the hydraulic trailers, which will be possible. In the future regulation, that is the new act which we have drafted, we had uploaded it for comments, and we have has also uploaded the second version, though there have been 8 iterations till now. This is the second version which has been uploaded. And we have received comments also from the Hydraulic Trailer Owners Association and thousands of other stakeholders. So we will be very soon circulating it start circulation for the cabinet. Presentations to competent authorities, etc. are already over. And we think that with wide-scale consultation with all the stakeholders, this draft will be in some form which, if passed in the parliament, can help the road transport sector to open up the bottlenecks. Because we envisage of setting up an authority, road safety authority, which will see the road safety aspects, as the engineering, mechanical engineering aspects of the manufacturing, and the civil engineering, and one of the vertical will be civil engineering aspect of the road construction, its maintenance. Then there will be one more authority called the National Transport and Intermodal Coordination Authority, which will be responsible and tasked to see how the assets which have been developed in the country, whether they are the fixed asset in forms of roads and bridges, or they are the moving assets like the vehicles, how their efficiency can be increased and how can the returns be optimized, keeping road safety in mind. And government then will have its arms to take decision fast, and we can give them annual targets to be fulfilled in years to come. With this, the view and the steps to be taken by the government, I see there are eminent speakers here sitting on the dais, and there are a lot of experienced people sitting in front of me. I am sure that our panel discussion will be fruitful. Thank you very much.
So next, ladies and gentlemen, next we will now witness a presentation by Shri Alok Bhaumik from TBGA Consortium. We would request the console to run this presentation of Shri Alok Bhaumik.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think I start this session with a brief on the effects of overloading on bridge assets. What this presentation covers is a broad overview of how overloading affects our bridge assets, what are the methods by which we can reduce the ill effects of overloading in a bridge, and what do we understand by overloading. This is the content of my brief presentation. We all know that India is, I think, second largest in the world in terms of road network. Our total length of road network is about 33 lakh kilometers, which is only second to US, which is having about 60 odd lakh kilometers. And our increase in this total road network in the last 5 or 10 years is phenomenal. And I think the projected investment on road is by 2017 is going to be nearly 20 billion. I mean, total stock of roads and bridges in India. That's a huge. And when we have so much of investment on the road network, it is primary responsibility of all of us to make sure that this asset is kept, I mean, safety is taken care. Now, road safety is indeed a major concern, and because as per the World Bank report, the fatality rate in India is nearly 10 times those in the developed countries, and therefore it's a matter of major concern.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shri N.K. Sinha has now arrived, RTD DG IRC, and we would request him to kindly join us on the dais as well. Warm welcome to you, sir. And Shri Bhaumik, if you would like to continue with your presentation. So sorry about the break, and warm welcome to Mr. Sinha once again.
Okay. So, as we all know, the major contributor in the road safety is the trucks, and it is the overloaded trucks. Now, there are two forms of overloading. One is I think there are two forms of overloading. One is the illegal overloading, as we can see in this slide, which is of course illegal. And the second form of overloading is the one which is after legal permission taken from the authorities, and which is, I would say, a necessary evil. Now, I think in the morning session we heard the various respected speakers on the dais talking about the importance of roads, which carry nearly 80 to 85% of the passenger traffic and 65% of the goods. And it is interesting to note that out of these 33 lakh kilometers of road network, the national highway covers only 1.7 to 2%, which carries nearly 40% and above of the traffic. And therefore, I think if we can focus more on the national highways, we will be addressing the issue largely as far as the safety is concerned. Now, as far as economics of overloading is concerned, it's very simple. Overloading leads to efficiency in transport, and it leads to high profit for the haulers. In turn, the benefit may be passed on to the general public, which means lower commodity price. However, overloading also is road network destruction, higher road users' cost, and economic downturn. A lot of studies have been done on this, what kind of a trade-off or balance is required. And it has been proved beyond a doubt that wherever the design loads in the bridges and roads are exceeded, net is always a loss to the exchequer. Now, there are several reasons due to which a bridge can fail, and which is listed here. Overloading is just one of the many reasons. And the statistics prove that the overloading, overall statistics around the world says that nearly 8.75% of the failure is caused due to overloading. Now, in India, if we see the records of last about 6 to 7 years, we found that there were many failures which has been caused due to overloading. And what you see here is a list of about 7 failures which has been recorded in last 5 years. One is as recent as November 2014, where reportedly it is a failure due to overloading, but final results may show it may be some other reason. Now, how overloading affects bridges? Let us go into these details. Now, the bridges are different from roads. Let us understand it very clearly. As far as the roads are concerned, overloading may reduce its design life. It may not, immediately damage the road, but overall life of the road will reduce. But as far as the bridges are concerned, either you are making it or you are breaking it. That is a very serious thing. Now, the safety of the bridge and the overall important overloading depends on the following aspects. One is the span length and width, and let us be clear, if span length increases, the vulnerability increases. Our study has proved that up to 25 meter, even loads up to 500 ton with distributed over hydraulic trailers, it can pass easily without hampering the safety. But as the span increases, the vulnerability increases. As far as width of the bridge is concerned, more the width, less vulnerable it is. That means the most vulnerable is a 2-lane bridge. And of course, in single-lane bridge, you are not permitted to take OWC. Maximum axle load. This is, I think, in the previous session, someone has asked whether 25 ton can be permitted. It is one of the most important parameters which we need to be conscious about. The maximum axle load should not be more than 18 tons. That is what our study says. Even if it is a hydraulic trailer, the maximum axle load is limited to only 18 tons. Because all the bridges, as per IRC Indian Road Congress Code, are designed for a 220-ton load as far as the transverse direction is concerned. So anything more than 18 ton would mean a safety hazard for the bridge. Method of carrying the load. I think that is an important aspect. If you are carrying by using hydraulic trailers or a series of where the loads are equally distributed and spread over a larger area, you have a much better chance and the bridge will be safer. Whereas if you do by a conventional mechanical trailer where the axle loads becomes very high, that is unsafe way of carrying over to the bridge. Now, just to give you an example, in an animation, a same bridge probably will be unsafe with this form of loading, but if it is carried this way, where the load is spread over, then probably the bridge will be safe. Now, how to manage overloading? There are several ways by which you can, manage. One is the enforcement of legal limit on roads. Second is to encourage the multi-axle vehicle as the purpose for which we are here today. Third is, this is another form of enforcing legal limits by putting in WIM on bridges, and I think in the long run this is essential. Identify and design major corridors for movement of OWC. I think this is another aspect where I would request the ministry to take serious note of. As I mentioned in the previous, I think that only 1.75% of the road network is national highway, which carries 40%. So if we can simply give an executive order that these national highway bridges are to be designed for a special vehicle, which is already covered in the Indian Road Congress, I think that will to a large extent solve the problem of bridge safety. As of now, the special vehicle given is not mandatory it is for the bridge owner to decide whether a particular bridge is to be designed for the special vehicle or not. And I would feel that if we can, to start with, take the national highways and make it mandatory for design of those bridges with this special vehicle, that will address the majority of the problems. Introduction of bridge management system, I think we have discussed at length, and this is most important in the long run for ensuring that this system becomes very smoothened, taking permission, I mean. In conclusion, I would say that bridge safety and longevity is a major concern in India. Number of bridge failures recorded on account of overloading is alarming. OWC and illegally overloaded trucks are major contributors to safety, for lack of safety. And regulating the passage of OWC and use of hydraulic trailers is the way forward. Multi-vehicular axle needs to be amended to include hydraulic trailers. Permissible GVW needs to be increased to prevent illegal overloading. More than state governments shall join hands in creating a national level bridge management organization with dedicated and trained staff having well-defined responsibilities. Thank you.
Next, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request Mr. J.P. Martin from Goldhofer, Germany, to explain the role of hydraulic trailer. Mr. Martin. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Mr. J.P. Martin. You have a presentation then?
There is no presentation. Good afternoon, boys and girls. I was asked to explain a little bit our point of view as trailer manufacturer, the difference between mechanical trailers and hydraulic modular trailers. Mechanical trailers are, in our point of view, overhauled technology. These are trailers with 3 or maximum 4 axles, without any steering, without any suspension, having a resulting on high concentration of axle load on the road, as clearly explained just before. That means high impact on the infrastructure. Also, the axles without any frictions are occurring high wear and tear on the tires. That means on cost. And these trailers are limited in their design. That means they are, as they are, they cannot be adapted to the design or to the cargo to be transported, as well as to the weight. On the other side, this is the reason why modular trailers have been developed. Modular trailers can be adapted in the length, in the width, to the load, to the dimension of the load, as well as to the weight. These modular trailers are also designed for different categories of axle load, and have a range of tools and accessories which enable also to be adapted or to adapt the transport concept to the load. From our point of view, everything which is over 30 tons should be transported on hydraulic trailers, modular trailers. which is the case today in Europe. On the other side, of course, when I see here in India the road conditions, I can feel why some people sometimes are reluctant to use modular trailers, which are more expensive, of course, as mechanical trailers for transport of 50, 60, 70 tons. When I see, for example, that in some countries like USA, Australia, we can travel at 80, 90, 100 kilometers an hour. Here, I think in India, for ODC transport, I think if the team succeed more than 150 kilometers per day, they will make a party at the end of the day. Normally, you travel at around 10, 15, 20 kilometers maximum an hour, which makes, of course, the use of this equipment more complicated, more costly at the end of the day. So in case the road could be adapted for modular trailers which are offering higher axle load, I think that could be also a better opportunity for the end users to use this kind of equipment. When I see you are traveling at 18 tons in axle load, these modular trailers can have a technical capacity of 45 tons, already including safety margin. That means this is really limited in the use. So could be good in case this kind of infrastructures, the future infrastructures in India could be also adapted for ODC transport. There are some countries like France, they have their own road for ODC transport where the people can put higher axle load. The infrastructure has been designed for this. Yes, that's it.
May I request Mr. Ramarao to come and explain about Volvo trucks in enhancing the global safety standards?
Good afternoon to all of you, and very happy new year to each one of you from Volvo Trucks. I would like to talk briefly about what at Volvo we are doing in terms of enhancing the safety of all the road users. I'm not an expert when it comes to bridges and roads, so I would like to see on how I could actually share some information which is pertaining to what Volvo is doing, not only in India but worldwide, in terms of improving safety for all of us while using the roads, bridges, in our commuting. Some statistics which are not very interesting but disturbing, but still it's a data that we should always look at and start allowing it to actually sink in our heads so that we could eventually work on them. Globally, about 1.2 million people actually get killed in road accidents, and 2/3 of them are pedestrians. And about 10 million people every year, they get one way or the other injured due to road accidents. So these are very disturbing figures. So why I'm sharing this is, at Volvo, way back in 1969, we actually created a team, we call it as Accident Research Team. So anywhere in Europe, whenever there is an accident, even before, in some situations, even before the ambulance actually arrive at the site, the Volvo Accident Research Team is arriving to actually understand and study what were the reasons for the accident. Because accidents are not because of one simple straightforward reason. It's a mix of various reasons. And broadly, when as per our investigation, about 10% of the accidents can be contributed to the vehicle itself, and about 30% to the road environment, and about 90% are actually contributed to the driver. When you add up all these three, 10, 30, and 90, it doesn't add up to 100. The reason being that, as I said earlier, most of the accidents are for more than two reasons. It's not just because of the truck or the driver, it's a mix of both. So all this information is used at Volvo to actually work on improving the safety standards of our vehicles. In fact, for Volvo, safety is a core value, and it actually started way back in 1927. From our founders, they said something like this: automobiles are driven by people. Therefore, the guiding principle behind everything everything we build at Volvo is and must remain safety. So that means the safety point has been, right from day one, has been part of our, our journey at Volvo. Whether we make a truck or a bus or whatever it is, any equipment that we make, safety is part and parcel of the whole thing. Now, when it comes to specific, points pertaining to the hydraulic trailers, our trucks, of course, when it comes to safety, again, there are two broader levels of, safety elements. One, we call it as active safety. The other one is passive safety. Active safety is nothing but, what is that we do to avoid, a technology that would actually enable trucks to avoid accidents in the first place. And the passive safety is nothing but, when an accident happens, how do you minimize the impact of the accident on the occupants, whether it is somebody sitting in the truck or a bus or people who are using the, in the environment, other road users. So there are various elements that would actually help us in terms of, reducing accidents. There's several innovations. In fact, a three-point safety belt is an invention of Volvo. Now it is, you can actually find it in every automobile, it's mandatory. So there's a lot of innovation that happens, and when it comes to tractor-trailer combinations, whether it is a mechanical trailer or a hydraulic trailer, there are a lot of features that we offer, some in India, mostly in Europe, or something like this, electronic stability program, stretch brake, a brake which will actually ensure that the tractor is taking a lot of control, when going down the road, down the hill, or while going over a bridge. Similarly, enhanced stability technology. So this way, Volvo has been contributing heavily in terms of improving the safety features in our automobiles, and thereby helping in minimizing accidents to the extent possible.
Now may I request Mr. Kannan to give an industry perspective on safety for roads and bridges.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The topic itself has been discussed so widely by each one here. When we talk about safety, I think what we do in our company is that we have certain protocols, and we explain this not only to our own people but also to the other stakeholders. We ensure that each and every aspect of safety is meticulously followed, and we have laid down certain dictums and standard operating procedures which go a long way in following this. The safety protocols what we have not only calls for during the loading or unloading process, but also during the movements, and what sort of precaution has to be taken for the safety of the cargo itself. Because what happens is when there is an accident, there is a third-party liability which comes. And to ensure that, we go through a detailed set of calculations, a detailed list of the requirements, the do's and don'ts. And then, there is a panel which discusses it in detail. And then once it is signed off by each one of us, not only the service provider, but by the user and the customer, we then put it to action. Most of the times, these safety requirements keep on changing. We always feel that despite taking adequate measures, there is always something which we feel we should have done better. And each time when we do a large cargo, we get an experience, and we ensure that for the next time, we ensure that the things which we did not, which we could not do it earlier, happens on the next time. Especially when large movements are happening, our thinking on safety starts from the day the tender is awarded to us. As soon as the tender is awarded, when we do a detailed micro planning of the movement, we also see that how the movement will take place, what is the best possible route which can happen, so that the cargo can be transported very safely. Because the various roads, the gradients, the bridges, all affect the safety of the cargo. We also have what is called as multimodal transportation, which we use in a large way. Because when cargo is more than 400 and 425 metric tons, especially for our turbine generator for the power industry, it is very essential that when we do this multimodal, and when there is a water come road. The first mile and the last mile goes by road, and in between by water. The transshipment has to take place in a proper way by means of a RoRo method. So during RoRo also, during the roll-on and roll-off, various safety measures have to be in place. And we have ensured that all these safety measures, safety equipments, everything is available in place. And at the end of the day, what happens is the customer, who is the actual person who is responsible for the project, as well as we as the service provider, as well as the consignor, all of them are equally responsible for ensuring that safety at the end of the day is what we are all looking at. During the course of our various movements so far, I think we take pride in saying that we have not had a single accident so far. And this is because of the highest concern which the management takes for safety. In fact, in all our board meetings, the first and foremost agenda which comes in the corporate meetings is about safety. First 5 minutes, they discuss about the safety in case there are any mishaps which could have avoided or which have happened in the past, a minor mishap. Everything is discussed in detail and minuted. And it is ensured that it gets percolated down the line. We have, even for normal loading on mechanical trailers, we have maintained standards in the industry. In fact, most of the service providers have been coming and saying that you are very stringent, and these type of standards are not possible in India. But we felt that as a leader in the project industry, we should take the lead. And despite many constraints, despite delays, despite non-availability of adequate vehicles, lashing equipment, we have ensured that the safety part is never compromised. We have also told our suppliers, our vendors, that safety is of prime importance, and in case our norms or our operating procedures are not being followed, then I think we would not like to continue with that supplier. And I think this type of attitude of ours has changed, has revolutionized the thinking within the company also. And even visitors or others who come into the factory are explained about the safety things, what is required, and what are the basic things which are required for safety. And we have made it a practice to ensure that it is followed in the right spirit, and we also propagate the same with all our other stakeholders.
Thank you. May I request Mr. Acharya to give a perspective on global transport technologies for safety?
Good afternoon to everybody. Firstly, I would like to touch the subject about timely delivery. This is the biggest challenge we are facing today. In the morning session, the BHEL chairman has made a statement that there were delays, and it took 9 months to deliver one consignment. Since the project owners, EPC contractors, consultants, and the service providers, and also the government, the support which is always supportive, is with us. Why not we spend more time on this and find out what is the root cause for this delay? Root cause is the root. That's the problem. Root is the problem. Because when you talk about weights over 200, up to 400 ton, we do not have the current infrastructure is not adequate to move heavy loads. What is happening is the service providers are not having enough time, are not getting enough time to conduct a feasibility study and involve the designers and consultants and get all the calculations done and clear the bridge. And these kind of delays, say 9 months delay, is nobody can afford, even the project owners or even the country can't afford. My view is that we have future projects and the current project. At least for the future projects, why not we, before setting up the project, why not the project owner clear the route and seek the help of the government to give an approval, since the project owners are taking various approvals. They've got enough time. I mean to say, they will have even 2 years' time before starting the civil works. So they have got enough time, and that information, if it is shared with the service providers and is given along with the RFQ, we can definitely cut down the transit time, and whatever strengthening required or bypass to be made, we all know that it is required to be done, so that there won't be any en route stoppages. And a project delay, even if it is delayed by few weeks, one can't even imagine what is going to be the loss to the country. The transportation cost is very negligible. So we have a serious problem which we are all facing. It's not only the service providers, it is also the project owners. Finally, they are suffering. We are service providers. We have the world's best technology equipment to transport, but we are not in a position to deliver, because slowly from a transporter we are becoming a civil contractors to carry out the bypass, to make the bypasses, to support the bridges. And I'll give an example. In one of the projects, for a distance of 300 kilometers, we made 14 bypasses. So this is the kind of, and that money is only for, that money what we are spending is just for one project, just for few months. So what we should do, or what my request to the project owners and also the government, that if we can make some sort of, for the current projects at least, make some sort of causeway, or provide some bridge support design readily available. Because even if you go to a design consultants, they need time. They can't give the solution immediately. They have to study, they have to make a design, and it is taking time. And there are cases that we have spent by bypassing a bridge for a couple of times, for at least for two projects, the money spent is more than the cost of the bridge for carrying a ODC consignment. So we are wasting our resources and the money and the time. So my request to the panelists, whether we can have some discussion on this, which makes a lot of savings for the country. And for future projects, if the government can give a clearance, route clearance, before setting up the project, I think that will help the service industry. And we have just made a beginning. HT3 is only about 144 ton GVW. But we have much larger weights. And the average transport distance, if you consider shorter distance and longer distance, for a transformer, the average transport distance is about 1,500 kilometers road movement. And we are transporting up to 300 ton, 310 ton to move from one place to another. So we request once again the project owners to approach the government and get the route clearance for new projects at least. And for a current project, if we can upgrade the bridges and also give some solutions, that will help the industry to a great extent. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Acharya. Mr. D'Souza to give his views on using global technologies for road safety.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to represent more the wind energy segment, which is an environment-friendly segment. I mean, there has been a lot of others who are representing the general area. I think 30 years back when wind energy came to this country for the very first time, the general impression was it was never something very huge, was never going to be an ODC or much lesser even an overweight. Because that time I think it was 55 kilowatt. Today we have reached 3 megawatt as an two is an average which almost all the wind industry manufacturers are making. Now in this we have the blade length which is reached up to 54 meters, a single piece. That is the biggest challenge, and especially for moving to hill stations which are not necessarily the resorts that we talk of. These are hilly places or along the coast. So the challenge is to have pathways for such a long single piece movement. We have begun when they were 11-meter blades on simple trailers. Now we have reached a stage where we had much longer platform trailers that has now come down to telescopic or expandable steerable trailers. So even, I mean, the thought process of using technology has set into that area. We are concerned on safety, therefore you have various recce's of the places around the villages where they have to be installed done and modifications done so that we take care of the safety of the local people, their small village roads and everything. That is how the safety part is taken care of in the wind industry, especially for these long blades. The other items are by and large containable within 100-ton load. They are also from mechanical, they are now moving on to hydraulics. They have started, even the towers are moving on hydraulic modules, though the weight component is within 100 tons, which would come within the purview of today's digital permission that has happened. By and large, this is the scenario as far as the wind industry transportation of overweight and over-dimensional is concerned for the safety part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D'Souza. Now I'll request Mr. Sinha, who's an expert in road and bridges, to give his views. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, eminent personalities on the dais, delegates and friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really very glad to see the number of delegates on this HTOA. At one time, in the last century, say up to 2000, we were trying to have multi-axle vehicles, and we were not getting many. Very few multi-axle vehicles. Why? The roads were not there for use of multi-axle vehicles. And in fact, we went through all the associations, but it was not coming up. Now they have come up, and we are now graduating to these heavy axles. It's good. But let me, my friend Mr. You mentioned about that the design, how the design was done. Mr. Bhaumik mentioned about design of the design criteria of the multi-axle vehicles which we are going to have. And in this one, two things which we have done. One is that the axle loads are not increased from 18 tons. And the other one is that material stress. Whatever is the permissible stress, we have allowed 25% more. So that is the criteria which we have followed, and that is why we insist that the bridges should be inspected before before the HT heavy vehicles are applied on. So this is the important part, and I would like you to understand the requirement of inspection of bridges before the operation is made. So this is one important aspect, because it is like a goose, which gives golden egg. If you cut it, the whole goose goes off. So that's why the bridges should not fall. That is our important consideration. So this is one factor. The other thing is that in order to make this HTOA very competitive one, we should identify certain corridors where you would like to ply them, and then define that corridor by supposing some bridges, if they are weak, you can have some replacement or other alternative method of transport. There are some cantilever construction bridges where this is not allowed. So you can have some alternative transport means, so that you have the corridor, and once you chalk out, and then the end mile, you can connect it with whatever connections you feel like. So the corridor wise, you have to just think of, so that the permission can be easier, very easy. That will also solve your problem, and you have the line fixed. It will be good for the ministry also to have all these bridges inspected, get ready. If there are weak bridges, they can be replaced. All those actions can be taken. So this is some suggestion from my side. I also heard the chairman mentioning that there are difference in the weight of axles. So that is one thing which we have to keep a very, very, very close eye on that, because any further increase in these axle load is going to be really very, very disastrous. Then I was going to talk about that training of operators. We have prescribed certain speed limit for these operation of vehicles on bridges. So those operators must be very, very well trained how to do it, go on a slow speed. So this is one important requirement. And last but not the least, gentleman from Volvo mentioned about road safety. I am also chairman of IRF India chapter. I would request that you also can contribute towards road safety as CSR. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha.
Thank you very much. Our esteemed panelists have all spoken. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now that we open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand in case you have a question. Volunteers are going to help us with microphones, reaching out to the audience members, and there is a question there in the center. Can we have a microphone approaching that gentleman on my left, please? Sir, we request you to identify yourself as soon as you get the mic, and please try to keep your question pointed. The microphone's coming to you.
And also please name the person whom you are asking the question.
Sir, this is particularly for you. Good evening, sir. Sir, this is regarding the possibility of incorporating in the rules regarding the gooseneck to be coupled with the modular trailers.
With the, you mean the hydraulic modular trailers?
Yes, sir.
And the power source, that is tractor, to be separated from the trailers?
No, that will be superimposed on the tractor.
Superimposed means body coming on the tail.
Gooseneck will be...
Okay, gooseneck.
Yes, sir.
So if you propose something, if you feel there are problems, and if it is as per...
No, well, it is not permitted as per the...
No, so what I tell you that the technology, when we had the central motor vehicle rules earlier to start with, the technology which is at present was much inferior when it started. So if there are certain UNEC norms, or the European Union has adopted the norms, and the axle load doesn't increase, it doesn't go beyond the axle load, then if you have a proposal, you can give it to us, we can vet it and we can notify it to amend the rules.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
And we are doing this in many cases. Your rules for the hydraulic trailers will be notified this week. Then there for large earth movers, which we took in the yesterday's meeting of the CMVR TSC.
Any other question, ladies and gentlemen? We have one here. So could we'll get to you after that. Thank you.
Good evening. This is Sandeep Gupta from Dorsal. I don't know whom to address the question because it's a general question on bridges. So the question would be
Mr.
like...
N.K. Sinha will be the right person.
Right. Mr. Sinha and Mr. Bhaumik, I think. Yeah. So Sinha Sahab, my question is, we had demanded that feasibility study of a project needs to be undertaken before the sanctioning of a project. Is there a possibility that we have the routes, defined routes, what we said, and bridges data, whatever is required for analysis of the strength of the bridges, be uploaded on the website, and also a route defined, like Map My India kind of a thing. Routes defined, ki this is the route, safe route, this is the maximum load you can go. That will probably facilitate or help us in not going for feasibility studies every time. The data is available on a click of a mouse, and to a greater extent speed up the whole process. This is it possible?
I think in the ministry, Mr. Pathak, if he's here, he can answer. We had thought when we were discussing with HTOA that these corridors will be identified, they will be mapped on a GIS, and if you click the points on the bridges, the details will pop up. I think that is the solution. That is what you are wanting.
Right,
no?
right, sir.
So then for that, presently, Chief Engineer Bridges will be able to. You can be in touch with him after the session. I don't see him.
Maybe I can throw some light on this, if you permit me. Firstly, let me tell you that what you are thinking is precisely what is required in the long run. That is, if you have the bridge management system in place, by bridge management system, what I mean is that every bridge in India is there on the internet, in the bridge management system. If you select a corridor, that particular bridge, what is the condition, should be there, available. If the bridge is safe as per the existing IRC norms, it should be written there. If the bridge is in distress, that should be there. This is precisely what I think in the first session also Professor Tandon highlighted, and I have also in my presentation highlighted that basically if we have the bridge management system in place, which essentially should be done by for not only the national highway but also for all the state highways. And once that is there, I think you don't need to specifically carry out a feasibility study or a condition survey. This is supposed to be there as a part of the maintenance of bridge itself.
Also, Mr. Sinha would like to make a point.
May I also reply?
Yes, please.
Okay. See, what Mr. Bhaumik mentioned is yes, that should be there, but it is not there. So, how to go about it? So, that is where the short form of that is condition survey. So, most of them on your corridors, once you have done it, you have to just update it every time whenever you start plying, and update that. And then you have also been given a kind of permission that so and so span bridges you can allow this. If the bridge is in good condition, you can apply your vehicle, hydraulic trailer. And if the span is more than that, then you have to think of any alternative solution. So that is why I said that you develop some kind of corridors for heavy transport. That will help you more. And what Mr. Bhaumik mentioned, ultimately our goal is to have a bridge management system. Then you need not go every time, because it will be updated every time and you can just see what are the types of bridges and what is the status of bridge, and then you can go ahead. That's the system.
Sinha sir, small suggestion from my side on this, that like you said freight corridors or the corridors to be developed. So where the projects are coming, maybe the nearest port to that, plant area, say Orissa is coming up, Jharkhand is coming up, Chhattisgarh is coming up, or Maharashtra, Raigad is coming up. So the nearest port to that area, if that, roads are being mapped and the bridges, at least baby steps we take, and because mapping up whole India will be a time process, and who's going to do it and what time it is going to be. So at least the initiative would start, and probably it will start helping us, the transporter fraternity, the haulers.
I would agree with that, but you have to discuss with ministry.
So ministry has already identified some of the corridors which was indicated by BHEL and the Ministry of Power at that time and Ministry of Heavy Industries. So certain corridors were identified, and the bridges, the survey of the bridges were started. Some consultants were appointed. And as and when the roads are being upgraded, at that time the bridge construction, the specification of the bridges, it is also ensured there as per the updated standards. So in this way, because it also means a lot of investment. So if more requests come, because now you have to sync between the source of the coal and also the placement of the power stations, coal and other things, gases from the port to the, because now the power stations are also, they give the, they compensate the reactive load. They have to be there near the load centers also, some of the power centers, power stations. So grid will have a balanced power. So in this way, it was again the Ministry of Heavy Industry and Ministry of Power was requested to identify more corridors. I think we will have to take that exercise for the future stretches.
So we have time for 2 questions, sir, and we already have that gentleman waiting at the back. Sir, are you still interested in a question? Okay.
My name is B.K. Dhar. I am ex-chairman of the HOTA. I had a question to Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay. What you say is this cost. Cost is there.
Sir,
what we have. Hello? What the ministry is now, I understood, already on the final stage of make the survey of the roads, identify the corridor. But even you complete the survey, there will be some main corridor bridges are not suitable for heavy lift movement. For those bridges, I think if you think to go for alternative bridge, permanently replace it is a huge cost for government. Instead of temporary, you can make the ODC movement always on the dry season. If you make the causeway or the bypasses of those bridges, particularly where is the heavy lift movement is very frequent, it is a immediate solution can be arrived.
Pathak is here, will throw light, because some of the stretches, as I told, has already been mentioned by Ministry of Power and Ministry of Heavy Industries. Those have been identified. But there may be few, there will be more requirement from the other stakeholders of movement of heavy equipments. Yeah, you are giving a cheaper solution. He says that why not have bypasses which can be used in dry season instead of having costly bridges for all-weather road, to allow the ODCs and overweight vehicles to be moved in dry season through lower.
I just wanted to highlight on those issues first, where already BHEL and other heavy equipment manufacturers have given us for a different type of heavy corridors. They have identified about 7 to 8 corridors. On those corridors, we have already appointed the consultant for checking the existing bridges, what is their health and what is their ratings. And based on their report and our ODC movements requirement, we are going to strengthen those bridges from the government side. And if at all if any bridges which could not be strengthened, just like you told that in that situation, we will be also considering for construction of the causeways with your participation as suggested by you. This already in our knowledge, and we are going to do that in the future time to come.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir.
Good evening. I'm Colonel Govind Tahil from Windward, India. I think one of the speakers very rightly brought out that 90% of the accidents are due to the man, not the machine. And we have been talking all this while on improvement in technology on the machine. And we being Indians, we will jump red lights, we will overspeed, we will go on the wrong side of the road. So what is the ministry thinking of getting out in exemplary punishments for making sure that the man does not commit the mistake? That's number one. Number two, also, how about getting in technology to ensure that this does not happen? Like in putting in radio radars in between on the way, putting in checks before the bridges, where you have a barrier, moment it crosses the overweight, the barrier comes down. So those sort of things can also be thought about. Thank you.
So enforcement is a major issue. As you know, the enforcement part is with the state governments, and road safety is actually more near to the community. So in the new bill which we are drafting, we have increased the various incidents of the definition and including the various offenses of related to the road transport, and have also increased the amount of penalty substantially, including the point system for the penalties and cancellation of the licenses and compulsory training, etc. And you may be reading in the newspaper that the amount which we have prescribed at present, if you go through the website, it's uploaded on our website, it is so substantial that some of the state governments and not some of the stakeholders, they are objecting to the amount. Kindly have a look at the bill, please. I will request you to do so.
I did see that, and I found a lot of observations and objections to that. So that's how I was wondering whether...
objection is still not uploaded. I don't know from where did you see the objection.
I think they've been coming through
the... in the newspapers, many objections have already started coming, including the state governments.
Sir, last question, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Arora from L&T Heavy Engineering. Actually, my question is partly answered by Mr. Bandyopadhyay. It is that Mr. Chibbar had said that it will take us 6 months further to get the bridge data, the analysis. Now the next one comes is that after these bridges are analyzed, which Mr. Pathak has also talked, that the strengthening or the new bridges, what are the timelines and what are the government plans on it?
I think Mr. Pathak will be the best person to reply. So he means have patience, please, for the next session. There will be no question left for the next session then.
I now request Mr. Manish Kataria to say a few words.
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, Joint Secretary, who has been very kind enough to spare the time to be here after the first session on my single call. So I am grateful to him for the time he has spared here. I just wanted to intervene. This was not part of the session. I just intervened because the issues raised ISTU has raised a submission to the draft road transport safety bill. The main issue is concerned is the driver availability. The industry today is struggling with the driver availability. And on date, if we go through the road transport safety bill which you have proposed, the draft, the fines which has been imposed and the punishment level you have emphasized on driver to improve safety, I don't feel there will be enough drivers in the country. As on date, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, I just want to inform that 18% vehicles throughout the country are idle without drivers. And no conductors are available as on date.
No,
so we are not hitting the basic...
Just to say, there was another view. He was saying that the penalty is not enough.
Yeah.
So
no, because he is not an operator.
We will have to balance. And again, when you say 18%, we will have to see what kind of the quality of the survey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that some of the surveys are not on random sample basis. They may be targeted survey. So when you quote surveys, we will have to carefully see that how accurately and how impartially a survey has been done. Because we also have the data, we generate every year the data on the road accident. There is a large report coming up. and the data comes from the offences registered by the police station. And the main output from that, one of the main output is that 78% of the accidents are caused by the drivers. So you have to be strict on penalties, as he rightly says, human factor, which may not be correct. Because whenever an accident takes place, one may finally conclude that the main fault is that of the driver. It may be of the machine, that is the vehicle, it may be of the pedestrian at times, it may be of the road condition also, but that is a data at least. So then there is a case for increase of penalty also. The data shows that there is a case for large increase of penalty.
Now, how do we see that what government is foreseeing, that how do we improve the quality of drivers and the availability of drivers? Because this is a part of skill development that which our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji is targeting, skill development. As our industry is facing a driver crisis and the manpower crisis, so is government is thinking anything to develop driver training schools? Because ultimately the road safety can only be achieved once we have good drivers. So how government is seeing ahead to generate good drivers?
For the drivers, it is also in the present act and the rules that the driver training schools are given licenses by the local authorities, that is the transport commissioners and the district transport authority, state transport authorities. And then the quality control is done by them. And once trained, then the tests take place. The tests can also be outsourced. There are provisions at present, which is not happening at present, but in this we are trying to open the bottlenecks in this sector of allowing outsource agencies to not only train the drivers, but also conduct tests. So we have provided from our National Road Safety Authority, which will set the standards, and the state road transport authorities, which will do the quality control on random check basis and maybe 100% check basis if it is feasible. In this way, we feel that in the economy, like it is in the developed countries, the driver training schools and private driver testing places can also be established.
Thank you very much, sir. If something can be emphasized initiated from your office, because you are controlling the entire country, the manufacturer lobby, because Volvo is here, Scania is today here. So we can see something from the manufacturer lobby that driver driver skill development programs are initiated, and something in a large shape, because as noted, our industry is a very unorganized one, and we don't have, you can say, united fronts to see that the driver training schools operate in a good shape. So because there are very little manufacturers, hardly 5 to 10 manufacturers are there across the country which are under direct control of the government. So can government emphasize on something through the manufacturers of the heavy vehicles that this vision takes a shape?
We will like to be facilitators in terms of manufacturing mostly, when there is no question on the road safety. So, as you know, the CSR, in the CSR, road safety issues have been included. Now in the mandatory CSR expenditure, if any manufacturer opens a driver training school, then it will be considered as a driver training, it will consider as a CSR activity. Secondly, for the income tax rebate, 50% of the amount spent in this activity in road safety, that is driver training, it will get a 50% rebate. And we have been pressing the Ministry of Revenue to give clarification that this should be increased to 100%. So these are some of the ways in which we will encourage more and more manufacturers to get involved in training of the drivers. As you know, many of the large manufacturers like Ashok Leyland, Tata, Maruti, Mahindra in some places have invested in, they have also partnered with the Government of India to establish the Driver Training Institute, and that has given good results. The skill development councils have, and major places are also training the drivers. So in order to meet the demand and the supply gap, these are the solutions which we think will give better results.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
दास साहब बताएंगे। वो स्टैंडर्ड्स बने हैं, हमारे डीजी दास साहब बताएंगे, वो स्टैंडर्ड्स बने हैं फॉर एमिनिटीज एंड लेबाइज एंड एमिनिटीज। दो बरस का कोर्स, तो देखिए जो चीज़ एक्ट और रूल में नहीं लिखा हुआ वो कोई दूसरी चीज़ होगी, आप वो चीज़ नहीं है। नहीं 2 साल कहाँ लगते ड्राइविंग लाइसेंस के लिए, कहीं वर्ल्ड में कहीं नहीं लगते 2 साल का कोर्स, वो कोई दूसरा कोर्स होगा। इसमें तो कहीं लिखा भी नहीं है कि कोर्स करना है, आपको तो आके ड्राइवर टेस्ट पास करना है, ड्राइविंग टेस्ट पास करना है, जिसको कि ऑटोमेटाइज करते चले जा रहे हैं। ह्यूमन इंटरफेस कम करने के लिए जैसे गुजरात ने किया है, अभी पुणे में लगाया है, तो इक्विपमेंट बेस्ड रिजल्ट भी इक्विपमेंट बेस्ड जनरेट करना चाह रहे हैं। ये लेब आइज के लिए और इम्यूनिटीज के लिए।
हेलो, जैसे आपने बताया,
वो नहीं बताएंगे, ड्राइवर का जो वो रूल बने हैं ना, रूल बने हुए हैं, तो उसके लिए टेस्ट पास करना है उसको, उसके लिए कोई लिखा नहीं है कि 2 साल की आप ट्रेनिंग लीजिए। ट्रांसपोर्ट व्हीकल के लिए तो है ना, वो तो होना चाहिए। उसका तो हमारे कानून जिन्होंने बनाया उन्होंने उस समय सोचा था ये जरूरी है। आपका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, पर जो कानून बना रहे थे उन्होंने सोचा था कि जो पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है 10वीं तक, उसके लिए ज़्यादा ट्रेनिंग ज़रूरत है, सोच के बनाया होगा ना। अब जैसे नया कानून बन रहा है उसमें ये जो अथॉरिटी आएगी और वो एनालिसिस करके देखेगा कि बिना पढ़े लिखे भी ड्राइवर ट्रेनिंग के साथ चल सकता, तो कानून चेंज हो जाएगा। पर एनालिसिस होना चाहिए, बिना डेटा चेंज करेंगे एक्सीडेंट होगा, उसकी जिम्मेदारी कौन लेगा?
वो मैं बता रहा हूँ। अभी मॉर्निंग सेशन में इनॉग्रल सेशन में मंत्री जी ने हमारे बताया भी आपको कि हम हर एक नेशनल हाईवे के एट डिफरेंट इंटरवल, जनरली हम लोग 50 किलोमीटर और अबाउट 60 किलोमीटर के इंटरवल पे पार्किंग ले बाइज बनाने के जा रहे हैं, जहाँ पे ड्राइवर्स की सारी फैसिलिटीज़ होंगी, वहाँ पे ट्रक्स पार्किंग के लिए होगी, वहाँ पे उनके रहने की भी सुविधा होगी, वहाँ खाने पीने की सुविधा होगी। वो ऑलरेडी हमारा पायलट प्रोजेक्ट हम लोगों ने बना है और उसके लिए ऑलरेडी हमारे पास उसकी प्लानिंग हो रही है और बहुत ही जल्दी ये आपको दिखाई भी देगा। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Mr. Pathak. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have to now thank the esteemed panelists with mementos. Mr. Ramalingam from HTOA is ready with the memento for Shri Sanjay Bandyopadhyay, and I would request the other HTOA team members, Sanjay Padwal, Mr. Rajesh Nakrani, Mr. R.B. Bhatnagar, Mr. Basant Purohit, Mr. Jaswant Singh, Mr. Sanjay Banka, Mr. Nilesh Sinha, Mr. Sushil Goel, and Mr. Vinod Kataria to be around. May I request our H2A team members to kindly join us closer to the stage, and we'd like to thank Mr. Sanjay Bandyopadhyay once again for taking the time out and gracing this occasion with his presence. Next, I would request Mr. Sanjay Padwal to present a memento to Mr. J.P. Martin, right in the corner. Next, may I request Mr. Rajesh Nakrani, if he's there, to present the next one to Mr. Alok Bhaumik. And a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for all our esteemed panelists. Mr. R.B. Bhatnagar, not there. Mr. Basant Purohit. I request you, sir, to present the next one to Mr. A.S. Rama Rao. Huge round of applause for Mr. Rama Rao. Mr. Jaswant Singh, would you kindly step up and present to Mr. G. Kannan? Mr. Felix D'Souza, we would like to felicitate you with a memento, and may I request Mr. Sanjay Banka to kindly step forward. May I request Mr. Vinod Kataria from HTOA to kindly step up and present one to Shri N.K. Sinha. And of course, we have with us Mr. S.H. Acharya as well. We would like to felicitate him and we would request any HTOA team member to kindly step forward. Which one? Mr. Satya Narayan from BHK is requested to join us on stage to do this particular felicitation. Mr. Satya Narayan from BHK. BHEL. Mr. Satya Narayan from BHEL. Big round of applause for Mr. S.H. Acharya. And finally, we have our moderator as well, Mr. Jignesh Patel, and he also deserves one. So any HTOA member is requested to kindly present it to him as well, so that we have a perfect photo of this moment. So thank you once again to the esteemed dignitaries for what an interesting and engaging session that was. Thank you very much, gentlemen.